results of IT companies for the second quarter, which have thrown in a surprise. The collective employee strength of TCS, Infosys, HCL went down by 16,162 compared to what it was at the end of the April to June quarter. Now, TCS's headcount dropped by 6,333, Infosys's by 7,500, and HCL's was down by about 2,300 on the back of slowing demand environment. But what's surprising is the attrition rate for these companies. The attrition for both Infosys and TCS also declined by 14.9%. So what's happening here? Are people leaving, people not leaving? Let's discuss that. Barnik Chitran Maitra joining us on the broadcast. Barnik, explain to us the anomaly. What exactly is happening? Are people quitting? Are they quietly quitting, or they're not quitting? Because the headcount is definitely down and so is attrition.
Yeah, so I don't think people are voluntarily quietly quitting, right? I think the entire headcount drop is explained by the fact that gross departures are more than gross intake, right? So people are actually, these companies are hiring far fewer numbers than people who are leaving them, right? So in general, if you look at all these companies you mentioned, most of them are not hiring from campus this fiscal. They've announced it, right? So the drop in numbers will continue because attrition, even though today is at under 15%, may actually drop to 12%. But if that means 12% people are still leaving your company, and if you're not hiring, then obviously your headcount drops, right? So again, that's the anomaly. I think there is no intake while there are departures, and IT companies are delighted to manage attrition at under 15%. So in a way, it's good news for them that they are being able to reduce attrition numbers while demand is softening across the board, and they don't need to announce very extravagant salary hikes to retain people. There are some salary hikes in the offing, but nothing compared to what we've seen at the peak of the demand in the industry.
All right. We also have Prabir Jha, who's a distinguished HR strategist, founder, CEO of Prabir Jha People Advisory, joining us on the show. Prabir, thank you for taking time out. I think, I have the same question for you. There is an anomaly here, and we were trying to figure our way around how does it work. Either people are leaving or people are not leaving. If people are leaving, of course, it's reflected in the head count, which is lowering and substantially lowering, 16,000 for 3 IT companies, and those are the numbers we know of. Attrition also remains constant and lower than what it was in the previous quarters. Does this then goes on to suggest that more and more people are being taken off? There is a sense of layoff, but a quiet layoff there that media is not able to report?
So there is obviously a slowdown that one can, or one has been prepared for. So it's not coming in as a surprise. Lower attrition is explained because the demand has definitely slowed down. It's tapered off, right? So there is more stability of tenure across levels, at least at the middle and junior levels for sure. The other thing which is happening is that while attrition has slowed down, your enhancement of numbers is also reflective of the muted demand. So normally in this space, you actually hire in advance, in anticipation of a certain demand. But given the the recessionary sentiment which has been there for the last couple of quarters, I think the hiring is muted and will continue, in my view, to be slow. So the overall headcount of such companies will continue to be modest, and attrition will continue to be in check.
All right. And so what is the future hiring looking like, Prabir? We know that IT companies have, in fact, major deals that they have signed up for, the deals that they will have to, honor in the next coming quarters. Do you think hiring will pick up? Is there a sense that hiring is going to pick up in the next quarter or so?
Shweta, in the near term, I do not think. I mean, if you use the word hope, surely I would hope. But do I expect it to happen? I don't think so. I think the sentiment on most campuses, especially with IT or product development companies, is muted. I don't think they're going to come in big numbers for sure. Maybe some will not visit some campuses. So the sentiment on campus is already muted. Second is that, you said that if big orders were to come in. Now, the question is, it's relative. Big orders, just the one big order is not enough. We normally like to see healthy traction, growing volumes, and that is what helps us build the pipeline of talent. I think given the experience of over the last some years, IT companies are going to be far more conservative in terms of resourcing. And if some things happen right, yes, they are going to ramp up. But whether that will be a secular trend in the next few quarters of growth, I at least do not expect that to happen. There is more conservatism and prudence that I sense in the environment than optimism and hope.
All right, Barnik, this one's for you. We are discussing this at a time when the big debate about work from home, coming back to haunt, especially the IT sector. How much of an impact do you think the change in, the approach to what work is, what jobs are, that are impacting the overall nature of the size of workforces?
Yeah, so I think one of the big long-term trends to talk about is what we call some of these IT companies are moving from linear revenue growth to non-linear revenue growth, which means this is revenue growth which is not headcount driven. So as you move into newer areas like AI, if you look at automation, a lot of those are more product and platform driven services which do not need a headcount growth. Now, the good news for that is you don't need to be working at office or working on client side to deliver some of these services. But the downside is these products and services don't need the same headcount. So I think what will happen for every single percent of growth for some of these companies, you no longer need to hire an equal percent of people to catch up the revenue growth. So in a non-linear growth environment, which is where a lot of these companies are headed towards, you will actually see a decoupling of revenue growth and hiring. And in fact, the most interesting thing I've watched in the earnings is all companies have continued to invest behind new technologies and invest behind some of these technologies which are fundamentally non-linear technologies from a headcount point of view. So I think in short, I think the model is shifting not only from a work point of view, but also from a service delivery point of view, where we expect far more automation, far more bots, far more AI. And I think I don't expect in the next 5 years that the industry will continue hiring 250,000 people a year, even when demand exists. I think right now the hiring slowdown or the freeze is mostly due to short-term demand. Even when demand comes back, I don't really expect the same pace of hiring, given that the nature of work and services themselves have transformed during COVID, and the IT companies have made the necessary investments to capitalize on it.
All right. Beyond IT, Barnik, and there is a sense that, we often keep talking about unemployment. Latest numbers that we have, in fact, government now coming on record to say that unemployment in general is at a 6 years low. This is, of course, a clarion call right at the beginning of election season. In your own assessment, do you agree with that number?
So again, the unemployment statistics are quite controversial, right? There is the government, which always claims a number, and then you have other databases like CMI, which have a different number. Now you have to break up the employment in India between blue collar and white collar, right? And what we're discussing today in IT is actually the white collar workforce, which in my estimation is barely 5% of the nearly 450 million people who are working in India. Given the intrinsics of India in terms of the economic growth, in terms of what we are seeing in terms of, I would say, new industries coming in, I saw your story on exports and all of that, right? I think there is job creation happening. A lot of the job creation is happening differently than in the past. It is no longer service-led. A lot of job creation is actually now being far more manufacturing-led. So again, I don't see a lot of data to dispute the government very strongly on its unemployment, right? Though I believe we should keep a careful watch out. I think we have to continue to grow at 6.5% to 7% per year to ensure that unemployment stays low. If we drop a couple of percentage points of GDP growth, I expect unemployment will spike by 5-6%. That's the careful mix we should always have in mind. I think as long as we are growing fast, I think unemployment is a solvable problem. If you're not growing fast, then unemployment will become a difficult challenge for the government to solve.
All right, Barnik, Prabir, thank you very much, both of you, for taking time out for joining us on the show at this point. Thank you.